It is lights out and away we go. Hello, racers. Welcome to episode 7 of the Hard or Soft podcast. I am your host, Adrian Huff, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, RJ McCullough. How's it going, RJ?
Hello, Adrian. Nice to chat with you again. Another great race weekend. And without further ado, another win for Charles means another Moscow Mule challenge. So we'll spray back there, but let's go. You know, I threw better than last time because last time I honestly struggled. So this time I'm going to try and I'm putting it in a cup so I can drink a little easier, a little quicker, hopefully.
So you are going with the 5 or the 6, I guess. This time you're not okay. You're not doing the chug.
Doing 4 plus 1, so it's 1 less than last time. But yeah,
no 5 is
no
still...
chug. I think it's a little too bubbly. I didn't want to risk not being able to chug it. So
that's true.
Bottoms up. If you want to get into our the next topic, which is just that, quite simply, some unfortunate news to report. We tried to request a Will Buxton cameo. Kind of expecting slightly to get shut down, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, we saw that Will Buxton was on Cameo, and we thought we would take a shot and try to pay him to do a little video for us. And we made the mistake of mentioning the show name, and of course he messages back and was like, unfortunately I can't do promotion, or else he would have understandably hundreds of requests to do promos. So we're thinking of doing it again. We're thinking about going round 2, just addressing it to me and you, and yeah, seeing if he'll answer some questions, because from the videos that I've seen, it seems like he takes a lot of time to answer the cameos and the questions. Like, it's not just like a minute of just like, hey guys, how you doing? It's Will Buxton. You know, you want to start in the front and finish in the front. You know, he gives like really long, like thoughtful answers, which is really cool. So hopefully we'll get back to that at some point, but it was heartbreaking at first, but then really, really funny when you sent me that screenshot.
Yeah, it was like, well, I guess, yeah, that makes perfect sense, but it was a little disappointing. We had high hopes, but that's okay. It'll something for the future. But
for sure,
before we get into the race stuff, how would you feel about, we talked about the weigh-in stuff last week, so that was introduced. How did you feel about May 1st being the next one?
Yeah, that sounds perfect to me. Yeah, that gives me, what is that? Besides this episode, 2 more episodes. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like doing an update every month is good. That way we're not doing it every single week, and it gives more of a full picture view of the weight loss, instead of just being like, I lost 2 pounds this week. You know, it'll be like, I lost 30 pounds.
Yeah, it's a lot more exciting.
For sure.
A big round number on it. So so yeah, keep up the good work with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, if people aren't familiar, we're doing sort of like, or I'm doing like a weight loss challenge. So yeah, keep tuning in throughout the year, because it's going to build up to the very last race this season. I think there will be more anticipation for this than the final race, because this may just be me, but it seems like it's kind of already on a lock, or it seems to be on that like hardcore on that trajectory after this weekend. Like, not to jump too into it, but like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, unless something changes drastically, which it obviously could. There's still so much time
for
left,
sure,
so much development that can be done. But at this point, it's just Charles is kind of running away with it. I think he could be leading the Constructors Championship on his own right now. Dude, that many points. Like, he's just, and this weekend, obviously we'll get into it, but this weekend was just domination from start to finish. So
speaking of, do you want to give our fantasy numbers?
I will, yes. So going into this race, you were ahead at 115 to 89. Now in this race, you obviously had Charles, but then after that, a nice little string of guys for me. So I had Perez, Russell, Hamilton, so 2, 3, and 4, and Ricardo 6th. You had 1st and 5th. So I'm gonna add it all up. You got 49 points this week. I got 53. So that's one for the good guys. And yeah, so but still, that being said, you still lead the overall championship at 166 to 142. we're gonna have to get the updated graphic to put that in, because
Yes.
I had to like search through I had to listen to our old podcast to find the numbers. What a adventure that was. So yeah, that's the updated standing. Slight lead. Excuse me. Slight lead for you.
Dude, that's crazy. It's so close, just 3 races in. It's closer than the real championship. I mean, I feel like I got really, really lucky with my first 2 picks, but as far as like I feel like what happened this past week is what's going to keep happening. Cause I mean, you had, what was it? 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
2, 3, 4, and 6. You had 1 and 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You also had 7, 8, 9, and 10, but those don't really amount to much. But
yeah, that's like 6 points.
And then that extra point from the fastest lap. So yeah, it's going to be, I think by the summer break, we should definitely nail down a definitive, whatever the prize or punishment, or whoever buying merch or something, because we gotta be something on the line for
absolutely
those last few races. Yeah. So before we get into the Aussie GP, I do want to admit that I made a mistake last week on the podcast, as we're prone to do. But I went on this long rant about how, the only thing I know about F1 is some video games, and I know Australia, and I just completely got the turn wrong that they've changed. I thought the turn that they were changing was the one that Signs actually ended up like ending, like whatever you want to call it, DNFing on. But it was actually the turn before that they changed. So, I mean, kudos to me for admitting I was wrong, but yes, I was wrong. So that's that. I had to get that out of the way before we really started. And then one more funny thing that I think you did see the video. I think we talked about it. It was in the practice sessions, the falling Marshall.
Oh God.
He was running to pick up something off the track. I'll put the video in our video, little inception there. But yeah, just a Marshall running down the track to pick up something, and the crowd's cheering after him, and he just eats it. Oh man.
In front of all those people, and you just know he had to have known that there was like, he's like, that got recorded by at least 6 or 7 different phones, like son of a bitch.
Yeah, there's no real good way to bounce back from that. You kind of just have to stand up and give like a big wave.
Yeah, you're like, I'm fine, just embarrassed.
Yes.
But about the turn, yeah, I mean, I read the same thing you did. I also thought it was the same, so it's no biggie. And of course, in this sport, the amount of information that gets thrown at just even a somewhat, like, I'm not going to say casual fan, because we're more than casual fans, like whatever a step up from casual is,
right?
If even hardcore, like the amount of information that gets thrown at you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
When you read turn 11 and 12, you're like, oh, okay, I think I know where that is. But
right.
I did say last week that gravel is deadly, and look what happened. Signs, he got stuck.
Yeah, a couple of people went over that. I think Magnuson went over it. A couple of people kind of Vettel. I don't know if it was the same turn, but a couple of people ended up in the gravel on several points. But yeah, that was interesting. And speaking of Seb, we have a new nickname for him now, because Scooter Seb made his appearance. That is unbelievable. For those who didn't see it, it was in one of the practice sessions, I think, right? It was before Quali. Yeah, because he barely got out in Quali. But I believe he had like a crash, or his car failed at the end of one of the practice sessions, and then he somehow commandeered himself a scooter and decided to ride that around the track, which was just an all-time image. Again, we'll put that in the video for the podcast as well. Check that out on youtube.com/hardersoftf1. So yeah, that was just unbelievable. What did you think when you were watching Seb go around the track, just having the time of his life, and well worth the $5,000 fine? He can wipe his ass with $5,000.
Yeah, there was I watched an interview. It was with Sky Sports, but it was in German, so I just had to read the subtitles, obviously. But he seemed he said that the marshal actually he like asked the marshal, he was like, hey, how do I get back? He's like, oh, we're gonna have a scooter come around. And the scooter got there, and he was like, can I drive it? And the marshal was like, yeah, go for it. And he just let him go by himself. And the commentators were like, you were driving, on the track, and you didn't have a helmet, you had your hands free. I mean, what are you going to do about that? And he was like, I drive my own bike faster than that. I mean, come on. It was just like such a great response. I love seeing any sort of like new, like fun role that he takes on, anything new, like any sort of like the firefighter Seb, the marshal Seb, like all of it. It's amazing.
Yeah, he just continues to impress. I mean, and shout out to Seb, because he looks fantastic this year. Whatever he's done with his hair, Like last year, he looked kind of old. Like I don't know, he might retire. Now he looks great. Hair's looking great. He didn't have a very good weekend at all, but he's only had so much time in the car, and obviously that we saw that this weekend. But like he's just great. One thing about Seb, when I first got into F1, I'll admit, for some reason I didn't really like him. I don't know. I just maybe because he won 4 titles with Red Bull, but then in the last 2 years of like I got into it a little longer than that ago. But last 2 years of being like obsessed, I love him. He's up there with one of my favorites. So
I'm the same exact way.
Yeah, he just like he just gives you so much to like, nothing to not really like.
Yeah, he's done kind of a like complete 180 because like especially early in his career, I mean, he was kind of considered like he was looked similar in the way that Max is looked at now. He was kind of looked at like the villain, but he's just totally turned that around to just being like Uncle Seb on the grid, just the most wholesome, coolest driver.
Yeah, no, I love Seb.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can kind of stick on that topic because Aston Martin had some big struggles. Real quick, Alpine switched back to the blue livery from the pink one. Not really a big deal, but we can discuss
I think it
that
looks better.
in a bit. Yeah, it looks better than it did at the start of the year. I was hoping for the pink, but I'll admit I thought the blue actually looked better than the pink at this point, but I don't know.
Surprisingly agree. Yes.
So yeah, what do we got? We got Q1, Aston Martin struggles. So going in, obviously Seb had some issues with the car in practice. Stroll did as well. And then they didn't get the cars out. I think Stroll got out with about like maybe 4 minutes left in Q1, and then immediately has a crash with Latifi, which actually kind of helped out Seb because then he wasn't going to get out for Q1, but because of that, he because of the red flag, he was able to get out there. But so this is actually something I wanted to discuss with you again, because at first I was under the impression, you were under the impression, like that was 100% Latifi's fault. After watching it back and listening to a few people's comments, I don't know. I think it's kind of at least 50-50 Stroll. I'm kind of now honestly at this point leaning towards it's more Stroll's fault. What did you think about that Q1 crash between the two Canadians?
I am on the exact same page as you. That's why live tweeting. Well, of course, if you follow our social media on Twitter, it's at Harder Soft F1. We use due diligence when we live tweet, but when you're using personal accounts and you're live commenting, you're talking in the live threads, you can just make these really hard opinions just based off the quick camera angle you saw. But yeah, like you said, after the fact, I think there's fault on both of them because Latifi did let Stroll by at first, but Stroll is famous for not checking his mirrors, and when you rewatch the footage, that's pretty much obviously what had happened. He's just so clumsy. Canada's third most famous athlete is just so clumsy.
Shut your mouth. God damn. Yeah, it was weird because he kind of slowed down, and then Latifi thought, oh, I can go back past him, and then he kind of swerved in. They crashed, and then the biggest
weird.
It was very weird. The biggest tell though with Lance is that they interviewed him afterwards, and he was kind of like, oh yeah, well, that's my Lance.
It's
it's kind of it's a confusing part of the track, like I don't know, it's just confusing. Whereas he'd real quick be like, oh, that guy's an 88, he cut me off. So
yep.
Yeah. Sorry, how'd you like my Lance impression?
Dude, fucking 10 out of 10. What makes it so good is that it's not far off. That is it's close. Like, oh my God.
What was that guy in the radio's name that he would always get in arguments with? Do you remember? It was a few years ago. I can't remember.
No,
he would always yell at him, and he'd be like, that's enough. Like, he just get so mad at him.
It's like Dan or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something very similar. Very simple, but oh man, that was interesting,
dude. And to anybody that thinks that that's in bad taste, you're Canadian. There's nothing wrong with it.
I can make fun of my Canadians. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, as much as you want to. And it's just, that was the first. I just texted you and I was like, damn, dude, both Canadians just caroomed.
I know.
My God.
I saw so I usually do like the live tweeting, and then you're like this little peek behind the curtain. He does like the replies usually. And I saw one of your replies was like, our Canadian co-host is punching a wall right now. And I'm sitting there like, come on,
so
get us. I had my brother had some friends over on the weekend, and a couple of them were actually F1 fans, which was really cool. I got to watch the race with them. But
It's awesome.
Yeah, like we were saying, like we would almost rather just not have a Canadian driver at this point because they're so bad. They're also just a quick offset. They're also all of them are shocked that I was a Lewis Hamilton fan. They're like, "You like root for Lewis Hamilton?" Like, whatever. It was just surprising. Most of them are now Ferrari fans, which is like, well, you're criticizing me for rooting for Lewis, but you're rooting for the team in front this year. But
yep.
Anyways, enough of that. Moving on. We had in Q1 it was Stroll, Latifi, Vettel, Kevin Magnussen, unfortunately, and Albon were eliminated. And then in Q2, another unfortunate ending is your boy Valtteri Bottas. His streak of 103 consecutive appearances in Q3, and that came to an end. Is that his whole career, or is that? It must not be his whole career. That's a long time. That's years and years.
Yeah, I think it's most of, if not his entire Mercedes career. And there were people that were saying before the season started that streak was going to end in the first race. And the fact that he was able to get into Q3 2 times in a brand new car in a midfield team.
Yeah.
I love Bottas. That's commendable. But like you said, the drivers that were eliminated out of Q1, Sebastian Vettel, obviously he had a chance to go out because of the red flag caused by the 2 Canadian drivers. He was able to get a lap in, but it would have been so epic if he had made it. But yeah, he did not make it, obviously. And interesting enough, Kevin Magnussen was sick most of the weekend as well. If I'm correct on that, I think he had like a stomach bug. I think I originally thought that he had COVID, which was like, I was super stressed about that for Haas.
Oscar
but yeah,
Piastri was just waiting in the wings.
Speaking of, he did a little commentating this weekend. I believe it was it was either before the race or before qualifying. I don't remember, but he has a natural talent for commentating. Like, if he never gets put in a F1 car, or if he eventually does at some point, he also needs to be put in front of a camera because the kid can commentate. Like,
if he never gets put in an F1 car, that's a travesty against the sport because he's like talented. But yeah, he's just like very likable. You know, he's like well spoken, humble. He's like very respectful of everyone in the position he's in. He's not like, he doesn't take the mindset of like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I want F2, I should be. He's just kind of like, you know, I'm waiting my turn, learning and getting all I can from the experience. So yeah, kudos to him because he could easily be like trying to champion the idea of if you win F2, you should automatically get a seat, or, you know, they got to change the rules. He could easily be taking that approach, but he's good for him. He's handling it well. One thing happened at the end of Q2. I don't know if this really rung a bell for you, because I mean, Max is your golden boy too, Christian Horner over here. But at the end of Q2, the sun was sort of setting, so guys were coming around, and they came on the first thing was Signs came on the radio. It's like, hey guys, I'm gonna need to change the tint on my visor a little darker, like the sun's setting. And then Lewis came on the radio. Guys, the sun's setting. I need a darker tint. It's hard to see. And then Max comes on the radio. Like, this sun is fucking unbelievable. What the fuck? Give me a fucking new visor. And I may be exaggerating a little bit, but I'm going to try and pull the clip because it was just a perfect example of the difference between not even just Lewis and Max, but just pretty much everyone in Max. He just, and his temper or his competitiveness is what pushes him to be so good. But it's also just, at this point, it's funny, but it's just, that's Max for you.
Yep. It's very abrasive. High energy is a way to put it. But yeah, I mean, he was like, it's not like he was like pounding his fist, being like, why are these Australians doing something about this goddamn sun?
They knew I was coming around this lap. They had to get the sun down at this exact time.
Or he's like, why didn't they schedule it at a better time? What the hell? Why are we doing this at sunset? It's just like,
all right, Max, it's your world. We're living in it. So anyways,
not this year.
Well, no, it's Charles's world now.
Mr. Yeah.
Monaco. I would love to see him win in Monaco, but we'll get to that.
Oh my God.
So it was Schumacher, Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, and Pierre Gasly eliminated from Q2. And then Q3, the big, really the big thing that happened in Q3 was with Alonso. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Alonso made it into Q3, obviously, and I believe he was still like at the bottom. I'm trying to remember if this was the first lap he set or the second one, but he was on an absolute banger, like purple sector. I think the middle sector was a green sector, but he set the fastest first sector, and he was on course to like almost certainly take pole in an Alpine, and it would have been his first pole in God knows how many years. But unfortunately, he crashed into the wall right at the end, which was just such a big fucking bummer, because that would have been the highlight of the weekend if that had happened for sure.
Yeah, it went from almost being similar to George's lap at Spa last year to turning into very similar to Max's lap at Jeddah last year.
Exactly.
Like, it was like, wow, this is an unbelievable. And I don't know if you would have ended up on pole per se, but even if you would have ended up third, like fourth, that would have just been, as I said on the, I liked on the broadcast, said he was on a cracking lap. I love their terminology. So yeah, that was kind of like the highlight, I guess highlight and low light, but then also Carlos Sainz, a bit of bad luck with like the timing of getting out there. I think he got the red flag from Alonso, came out as he was like literally like half a second from crossing, putting up a lap. So then he kind of had to time out, giving it just like a one shot quality lap essentially, and he screwed up on that. Like I think his radio was like, "Oh, that was a complete disaster," which it was, and it was sort of like a sign of things to come for the weekend for him.
Yeah.
So he came ninth after, which he came last essentially because Alonso crashed out. He didn't put up a lap. So, but pole again to Charles, Leclerc, Verstappen, number 2, Perez, Norris, Hamilton, rounding out the top 5 for quali. Anything else you want to discuss before we get into the race?
Just shout out to McLaren for, I know they said that this track just sort of benefited their car more than the first two track or circuits have, but I don't know. I feel like they're at least improving the car. Like they've definitely like changed a couple of things, because they went from, I think Ricardo fell out in Q1 in the first race, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. It was just horrible.
He was out for the first race of COVID, right?
Yeah, so it was.
And then
Yeah,
so
last
race he was out in Q1 though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, props to them for absolutely bringing the heat, because obviously we'll get into what they ended up placing. But I mean, I felt so happy for Ricardo, not only being able to be back at his home GP, but to be able to get into Q3 and then place not in the top 5, but not 10th or 9th. But that was just really cool.
Sorry, and we'll get into that too, because there were some interesting things that happened with him and Lando at the end of the race. But these mules do make me burp. I'm from last time, so I apologize.
Damn mules.
Okay. But yeah, it was really cool to see him at home. He was smiling all weekend. He's just face hurt from smiling so much. Like he's just, it was really cool to see Danny in his element. So I wanted to try something new this week, because the big thing we're working on with our content is the 1 minute or less videos.
Yep.
For our shorts and Twitters and TikToks, and check out we'll plug everything at the end, but I want to try, you're more than welcome to do this too, or you can do it next race. I want to try a 1 minute race recap. Okay.
Oh shit. No, yeah. You take this
I'll
week.
This
I'll take you. I'll take
Imola.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me pull up my phone. So that's what I was doing. If I look distracted, I got a stopwatch up.
Okay.
Got
I was gonna say,
notes.
If you need to focus, I can time you also. All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. And
all right.
Give me a countdown like the F1.
All right. Here we go. 60-second race recap. 3, 2, 1, go.
Charles Leclerc gets his first career Grand Slam, which for those of you who aren't aware is a pole, a win, fastest lap, and leading every lap in the race. Don't quote me on that. Could be wrong. Carlos Sainz, DNF second lap, unfortunately for Ferrari, 15 seconds in. Okay. Max Verstappen, second the whole race, DNF, lap 39. I hate to see it. Mercedes, third and fourth. George Russell gets his first podium with Mercedes. Perez comes second. Sebastian Vettel, unfortunate DNF. Scooter Seb. McLaren, 5th and 6th. Great race for them. Good to see Danny in his home getting some points. Alex Albon rounds out the points with a 10th place in a Williams. That's just an incredible race. Great to see all the Aussie fans. Great to see Australia back on the calendar. Great race. that's my 1 minute race recap.
And you did it with 10 seconds to spare. You were at like almost 51.
Oh,
Holy shit.
now I can put the intro into the 1 minute and make that a whole one thing. Let's go.
Okay, should we call it the title of that segment will be 1 minute race recaps, but we should try to seal it in at like 50-55.
Yeah, because I've had that issue with a couple times with shorts this week where I edit them to 59 seconds and then YouTube for whatever reason makes them 1 minute and 1 and then they don't qualify for shorts and then they obviously get no views.
Yeah, so yeah, if you stumble upon our YouTube channel, we're aware. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens with a fresh YouTube channel. You are going to get no views. But if you have found our podcast from Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or TikTok, welcome. We're so glad that you're here to listen to the whole episode because the clips have been doing really, really well. And it seems like they're improving a lot over time as well. So, and of course, you've come up with an amazing design for us, and it's just so easy to plug those through. So yeah, if you've found the podcast from one of those clips, thank you so much for tuning in. And we can move on from there.
Well, real quick, I can't really accept that. As nice as it was, you did actually literally design the art that I use. I just figured out how to make it look decent on the page, but you actually designed the art. So I'll take the compliment and I'll throw it right back.
Joint effort, 100%.
Yeah, it's a team effort, absolutely. So let's get into the race.
Fuck yes.
I'm going to take the second talking point because it's Mercedes. So you can take Mr. Carlos Sainz.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, gosh. I mean, starting off, first of all, let me just paint you a picture of what I was doing during this race. Now, we've established you're in Canada. I'm in the United States, but we're both on the East Coast. We're on Eastern time. So our GP start time was 2 a.m., 2 in the morning. And of course, we even mentioned it last week. We're not going to complain by any means. But I also had a bachelor party to go to that Saturday because it was 2 a.m. after that Saturday evening. And it was for a bachelor party that I'm the best man in. So, of course, there was lots of drinking, lots of activities that went down. It was so much fun. Yes. But yes, of course, everybody passed out around. Oh, sorry. No, I've already screwed it up. The qualifying was 2 a.m. The GP was 1 a.m.
Yeah. And Quali went to like 4 a.m. because
it did.
The red flags.
Yeah. So stayed up till 4 a.m. watching Quali, got up and just started day drinking with my buddies. It was a lot of fun, but everybody crashed around 12:45, right around 1. And so I just laid on the couch. I was drunk. I'm not even going to lie. I was drunk watching the GP and roundabout bringing it back to Sainz. That was the first thing that
Great segue.
Yes, I think I woke up some of the guys because it shocked me. It was crazy. And I was like, I felt so terrible for him because he's already had such a terrible weekend, and this just sort of stamped it as just one that he definitely wants to forget. But now we know that they had to switch his steering wheel out right before the race, and that there was an issue with the steering wheel as well, and there was an issue in the car as well, apparently. So he was just set up for failure, and that dreaded gravel spot, he hit it, and he got stuck. And within just a couple of laps, it was the end of his weekend. But yeah, super disappointing because him and Charles both have an incredible car this year. Like, that's obvious. And it's no secret Carlos is an amazing driver, but it's just gotta sting for him knowing that just anytime you waste potential or you mess up, it's got to be gut wrenching.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially with, as you said, the car, there's no excuses. Like it's all on him at this point. What I found interesting about this start, was that I believe he had a quote saying like he pushed it too hard at the start, something like that. But if I'm recalling correctly, again, it was 1:15 or so at that point, and there were a few alcoholic beverages consumed. So I may be misremembering. However, I believe he fell from like 9th to 14th, like right away off the start. So maybe he's referring to like revving is and something to do with that. I don't understand as a layman, but it was to me was a bit of a strange explanation. And then Yeah, he just took my favorite corner. He just took it too hard and then just didn't make it and came. It was actually kind of lucky that he didn't get hit, like because he
Uh-huh.
was right through the middle of the track where everyone's kind of buzzing through there. So yeah, just unfortunate. Obviously, like I love Carlos Sainz. It I hate to say you never want to like root against someone, not that I am, but it does help a bit in the constructors, keeping the constructors a little tighter. And because if they would have got 1-2, like they would have really started running away. They're already 40 points ahead. But yeah, so other than that, though, there's nothing good that came out of that. Just a really bad weekend all the way around for Carlos Sainz. I mean, I think going into the year, there was Charles was probably, if you were to say who's the favorite at Ferrari, it would definitely be a little bit leaning towards Charles. But now the gap seems to be growing quite a bit. Like Charles has been absolutely flawless, and Carlos has made, whether his fault or not, he's made a lot of mistakes early, and I don't like to see it. I would like to see him bounce back big at Imola and get a race. Now Ferrari, like their training center basically is Imola, right? It's one of the, is it Monza or Imola? I know one of their, because they made a quote this week about having something they were training at Imola, but I think like, anyways, regardless, it's in Italy. It's going to be a good track for them. So I kind of expecting a 1-2 there for Ferrari, but hopefully Carlos can bounce back. Sorry for the long rant.
No, I totally agree. I think you're right. I think it is Imola. Of course, like you said, from coming from a layman, it could be Monza, but I do think it is Imola. I, of course, was just gutted for Carlos, but I completely agree once again with you that you do, as Mercedes and Red Bull fans, you don't want to see Ferrari just run away with it at the beginning, and you want that these kind of things to happen. That's just part of racing, keeps it alive. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's,
Yeah.
I think Red Bull is going to sadly, if this shit keeps up, they're going to have to just focus on the constructors this year because I mean, we'll get into that, but yeah, horrible weekend for Carlos, but it would be so amazing for him to get his first Ferrari win in Imola. Like that would just
Yeah.
be amazing. I mean, we'll have to see. Even if it's a 1-2, I know that probably won't be enough for him. I know he's going after the win.
Yeah. At this point, I don't think, like at this point, I don't think he would ever admit it, but he has got to be starting to, in the back of his mind, there's got to be a little bit of thought creeping in. Like, if I don't pick it up, I'm not going to be on Ferrari much longer because they're not going to put up with that. They're like, say Charles runs away with the drivers and then Carlos finishes fourth or fifth in the drivers and they lose the constructors. Like, they're not going to keep Carlos, even though there's a way to get out of contracts. So I don't think that's going to happen, but he's kind of got to pick it up. He's on the hot seat right now.
For sure.
Yeah, the next point I had was the Mercedes 3-4. So there was an interesting. So George, basically what happened was Lewis got an unbelievable start. He was doing third right off the bat. He had a great start, a bit lucky, but great start. And then the safety car that came in, he had just pitted, so it kind of didn't really, like, you can't say it screwed him because it's just, that's the nature of the beast, right? But it was a bad break, I guess, right? And so he was stuck behind. He battled a bit with Perez, and then he was stuck behind George Russell just because of the way the safety car worked out. So he finished fourth, and Russell got the podium. And with a few laps left, it looked like Lewis was going to kind of make a run at George. Like he was, that's like all I was watching because the race itself was pretty much over. I was just watching the times between Lewis and George, hoping he could get within 1 second. And he did a few times, but then with like a few laps left, there was a radio from Lewis saying to the team, like, you guys put me in a really hard position. And everyone watching, even myself being a huge Lewis fan, thought, okay, so he's saying like they either didn't let him race, or he's saying like, I should have been the one in third, but I'm not going to risk the points. Like, I'm going to do the right thing here, but like, you all know that I should have been. So it was kind of like an uncharacteristic quote from Lewis, but he said he meant, so his engine apparently was overheating, and so he literally just couldn't battle because of the engine overheating. And whether that, I guess that had something to do with what they did with the car earlier in the race or something like that. So he wasn't, despite, I'll admit, it sounded like he was kind of being a little bit sassy, but it was just, he was talking about the engine. He wasn't talking about George. So I got to defend my man's, and he was not being sassy. Okay. So
No, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you anything you want to add to that before we get into your man?
Gosh. Oh yes, we will. But yeah, Lewis, people love to point fingers at his radio messages in particular. But when I heard that, I just thought, to me, I was like, oh yeah, he's like, you guys have put me and George in a position to where either I just let him finish and I don't actually fight, or I take away his first podium. You know, like even if you're like the GOAT, which he is, it's still a hard position.
Yeah, no, he was in a bit of a tough position, but in a way, it actually, in a roundabout way, at the end of the day, it kind of makes it easier that for Mercedes at least that his engine had that overheating, because if he would have had to battle for George, I mean, there's not really a good outcome for Mercedes, because either way, they're going to get the same amount of points if Lewis finishes third and
Yeah.
George finishes fourth. So they could have crashed. It could have caused, even if Lewis does pass him, then maybe George gets pissed. So in the long run for Mercedes, it's good. Obviously, I would have liked to see Lewis on the podium. Had a bet on him to make the podium, but that's the game. So Seb's weekend came to an abrupt and unfortunate end as it started. DNF on the 23rd lap. It looked like his car just kind of came to a stop by the initial broadcast, but he did spin out and hit the wall. I don't know if it was his fault or the car locked up or whatever the case may be, but just he also had a moment earlier where he went into the gravel and he kind of took blame for it. Like, oh, sorry guys, like it's hard to judge the braking. He obviously just didn't have enough time with the car. And then the reason I'm not going to spend much more time on that is because the next thing is, I'm gonna let you take it from here, because something happened on lap 39 that was just very heartbreaking.
Yes. Lap 39, the reigning world champion Max Verstappen DNF'd again. He DNF'd again, bro. And this one was more sudden too. Like in the first GP, there was at least, he was like, I'm losing power. Then he's slowly, but this was just like, he went down the straight, he made the turn, and then he was like, oh, it's dead, pulled off.
Yeah. Came out of nowhere.
God, it's painful. It is. And it showed me that I'm at heart a Red Bull fan, and that I can, I can be as happy as I want for Ferrari, and I can cheer for Ferrari, but at the end of the day, I still want success for Red Bull, because my first thought was, oh Jesus, Sergio's about to, his engine's about to fucking just explode. Like, and I know, this is for Lewis fans, it's a dream. It's like, and I get it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he doesn't deserve it, or that he doesn't have it coming, or, whatever it is, but it's still so painful. And I have a message for Red Bull. Fix your shit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, to be fair, Red Bull, especially the people at Red Bull, they seem like masochists. They seem like they enjoy the suffering, because they turn it into motivation.
Yeah.
But good God, from what Max said, it's a separate issue, and it's not the same issue that they originally had. But Helmut Marko kind of alluded right after the race that it could have been the same issue. So who knows?
Yeah, you can trust that guy.
Right. Yeah. We don't know what the problem is. Right. If it is the same issue, they're obviously just trying to cover their tracks and be like, look, we fixed that. It's a separate issue. But if it is a separate issue, then Jesus Christ, their reliability, like they need to put some like development points into that,
Yeah,
like
that's two out of three for he is the reigning world champion. I can't, regardless of how it happened, he is the reigning world champion. So you can say the best driver on the grid, arguably. And for him to have those issues that have nothing to do with him, he should be looking at second and being right up there behind Charles in the driver championship. And instead he is 6th place in the drivers championship. Like, he's obviously going to make that up, but it's got to be so infuriating. He's driven pretty perfectly. Like, I'll admit that he hasn't really made any glaring errors by any means. And even when he got out of the car, I'll give him credit. Like, he was it was almost like at first it was like he was the one that pulled the car over, but then you saw the issues and he said he could smell something, and then he didn't go as far as Seb as taking the extinguisher out himself, but he was like helping the guy, like pointing like, no, get in there, get in there, get in there. So good for him that didn't just walk away and throw a hissy fit, because like I wouldn't blame him if he did in that situation. That'd be so frustrating, just losing 18 points like that in a couple months. Looking back, how big that 18 points could be is huge, right? So that's insane. And then the next thing that I want to talk about was the McLaren's 5-6. Great result for McLaren. Actually, you know what? There's one more Red Bull thing I wanted to bring up before that, is how long until Red Bull has to start thinking about Perez as their number one driver and like making the team orders benefiting him, because he's fourth in the driver standings and Verstappen's is sixth. So I don't know. I'm just looking at the numbers, and Perez had second place. He's very consistent. He had pole last time. So I don't know. Just a thought. But I can move on if you want.
No, it's no, I could talk about Red Bull all day. It's interesting comparing, because I mean, you look at Ferrari and Red Bull, and Ferrari claims they don't have team orders. Red Bull's pretty clear about it, but it's obvious that Charles is the main Ferrari driver and Max is the lead Red Bull driver. But comparing their teammates, to me, it felt like Perez did an okay job last year. I will die on this hill that he's a better teammate than Gasly or Alex Albon, but he has been bringing it this year. And if it wasn't for his DNF in the first race and both of Max's DNFs, it would be like so close. But I think Red Bull, they wouldn't be ahead, but it would be like so close, and it would be Charles, Max, Perez in the driver's standings. So I think it's possible that Perez could just, I mean, let's say neither of them have DNF engine related issues throughout the rest of the season. It's got to feel good if you're Perez, you know. It's got to be extremely motivating. He's like, holy shit, I could beat Max Verstappen this year. Like, that's, whether it's, you know, fully on him or if it's also on some luck through the car, but like still that's going to be interesting to see. And of course, the Formula One Instagram, they always post the standings of the constructors and the drivers, and just seeing Max so far at the bottom is just,
and we'll get to the full standings later, but it's and
weird.
Again, I'm obviously, this is a little tongue in cheek. I do think Max, like, there's no chance they would ever make Max a second driver, but
no,
it's just Perez has been, if nothing else, very consistent, and I don't know if you can say underrated, but just like flying under the radar, I guess is a good way to say it. Like, he doesn't attract much fanfare. He doesn't like say anything crazy. He just kind of goes out there, goes about his business. Very similar to Bottas as he was in Mercedes, like kind of just accepting that he's a second driver, not loving it, but just accepting it. I think he's actually a better quote unquote second driver for Red Bull than Bottas was for Mercedes, in terms of like supporting and being like a backstop for the number one driver.
Yeah,
but that's a discussion for a different day. The next, so finally I will get to McLaren now. So 5-6, great finish for them, considering in Bahrain, like, they were looking like bottom of the barrel. Like, they were going to be fighting with Williams and like Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo, and not even Alfa Romeo. Like, they were looking not good. So
AlphaTauri,
like, they just were not looking good. And this race, 5-6, good points for them. Good for Danny to get some points at home. Obviously very happy. But at the last few laps, his car, he obviously was having issues with his car, and it was slowing down a lot. And it turns out they were telling him to like lift and coast a lot. I think it was something with his battery. This, I don't know the facts on it. I'm forgetting at the moment, so you can correct me if you have it up. But he was having some sort of issues with his car, and to the point where Danny's like, they told Danny just stay behind Lando, and then Danny said, well, what if his car, something like, what if these issues get, like, what if his car stops? And then they said, like, well, at that point you can pass him. I'm like, yeah, no shit. But it was sort of interesting that I think Danny clearly could have passed Lando if he wanted to. I know they want to protect the points, but in Danny's home race, and when it's 5th and 6th, the difference between that is what, 2 points.
Yeah.
kind of surprising that they would prioritize Lando that much when, like, let's be real, Lando's not winning the world championship this year.
No.
So if Danny's home race, when he's got the faster car, when you're going to get the same points as a team, kind of an interesting decision to. And now maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's just sort of an interesting thing that they would just be like, Lando, Danny's got a faster car. He has no issues with his car. Let him go. Maybe he can catch Lewis, you know?
Yeah. My only thought would be, or the only reasoning that I could come up with is that perhaps they wanted him to stay behind in case who placed 7th.
Ocon. Wait, no, that's 7th. Yeah, Ocon. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they were worried that Esteban would be catching up. I don't remember exactly how close he was, but maybe they just wanted him there to back him up in case Lando's engine did continue to decline even more rapidly. But yeah, that's tough. I think they definitely treat Lando as their number one driver, which sucks. I can't even imagine what it's like to be the team principal or even an engineer of a Formula One team. But if it was me, let's let Ricardo by, especially if he's faster. If I would say, like if it's clean and on the main straight, then have at it. Then because that just stings a little bit, because top 5, that would have just been just a little more sweeter than P6, which is still amazing, especially with how McLaren's been performing in the first 2 GPs, but a little disappointing, not even gonna lie.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we'll get into the standings in a bit, but after all of the shit that they've gone through in the first 2 races, they are 4th in the constructors. So like that's honestly as good as they could possibly hope for. I mean, they could have had more points. They could have been closer to 3rd right now, but if they finish 4th in the constructors at the end of the year, they're not going to be upset with that.
No, I mean, that's same as last year.
Yeah, like that at the start of the year, you feel like they're thinking, we want to get 3rd, we want to get 2nd, we want to get 1st. We're not, but 4th is what our realistic bar is. Now I have to say something about my Canadian, Mr. Sir Lancelot. He hasn't really been getting a lot of criticism, but he had a very weird weekend. First, I mean, aside from just him as a human being, I won't get into that. So first, he had the qualifying shunt with Latifi, which upon further review, we both agree he was more at fault than we first thought, like at least 50-50. And then I think it was lap 1, like right off the bat, he runs Bottas completely off the road. How he didn't get a penalty for that? Like they had an interview with Bottas after. I think it was with Bottas. There's someone on Alfa Romeo, but I think it's Bottas. And they're like, "Oh, did you think what do you think about Lance not getting a penalty there?" And he's like, "Oh, he didn't get a penalty because he another point in the race he got a penalty. So I guess Bottas thought that's what it was for." Mm-hmm. And they're like, "No, that was for something else." And he's just like, "Oh, whoa." So yeah, that was like he just ran like that's a classic. That's a penalty, like at least like a 5 second or something. I heard some like conspiracy theorists that he's like on the edge of how many points you get before you get banned for a race. So if they would have given him that, maybe he would have got banned for the next race or something, which obviously they don't want to do that in F1, but that's I don't know. And then he randomly out of nowhere was weaving on a straight. And this wasn't like at the end of a safety car to warm his tires up. It was during the race. He was just weaving on a straight. And that's what he got the penalty for. And even his radio guy was trying to be so nice and diplomatic. Like he was going around and his radio guy was like, just a reminder, Lance, you're not allowed to weave on the straight. And Lance afterwards like, yeah, they're giving a lot of weird penalties out in F1 right now. And he's like, yeah, like everyone weaves on the straight. Like I don't know, not really.
So good.
It's just a weird thing. So yeah, that's just Lance. I do really hope I got to get this clear because I was telling people this all weekend, but it could be wrong. Is it Aston Martin that Audi is potentially buying, or McLaren?
So they've put offers into McLaren, but there's like rumors that Aston Martin could be entertaining an offer, or that there's like even talks. But That's total rumors. But the only thing we do know is that they've offered 900 million pounds, euros, dollars, whatever it is, to buy McLaren F1 team, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Aston Martin needs to be considering that because their cars shit. And I don't know what Stroll was on this weekend, man, because he got penalty points for the Latifi incident. Did he get a penalty point for the weaving as well? So
Yeah,
he
I think
got
he gets
three.
one. Yeah, and he was at 8. So, and I think the 12 is where you get a ban. So if you would have gotten that penalty for pushing Bottas off track, that's where the conspiracy comes in. Right? Like
Yeah.
he would have been.
Okay.
And like for those who don't know, because this is a very like obscure rule that I only know because I heard someone else saying it. If you get obviously if you do certain things in races, you get penalties, but you accrue points as well for those. And if you get 12 points, I believe it is. We're gonna have to look this up. But at 12 points, something like that, you get a race ban. And Lance is pretty close to that. And if you would have gotten these points for this penalty, he could have been banned for the next race, which is just PR wise, even for F1, that's just not a good look. Like, I think they should use a different word than ban, because just having that on social media, like Lance Stroll banned from, Emiliano Romano Grand Prix, it just looks bad. Then you're like, oh, what did he do? Like, did he take like performance enhancing drugs or something? Like, what did he do? But yeah, so that's the Lance Stroll information. On the other hand, Albon, great finish, finishing 10th in the Williams. They had a really interesting strategy. I don't know if it was because they were hoping for another safety car, but they didn't pit. Like, they went the whole race on hards, I think, until like a few laps before the end, unless I'm wrong. But I think they pitted right at the end, just hoping for a miracle of getting another safety car. But it worked out because they had enough of a gap. They still got points.
For sure. I think, gosh, so much happens in just a single race. If I feel like I remembered him pitting like in the first couple of laps, because I don't know if it was the Williams. It might have been Stroll, because I remember it was one of those two, because I was like, why the fuck are they pitting so fast? It was like lap 7. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's insane. Props to Williams.
That's a great drive.
It is, dude. Yeah. No, straight up. I love Alex. I very, just hearing the team radio was really special. I know some people will be like, why are you going to celebrate 1 point? And it's just like, you don't understand Formula One. You just don't. 1 point.
That's the
means
biggest,
everything.
like, learning curve in getting into F1 is
yes,
the drivers at the back. It's not, yeah, with like Stroll and the TV maybe, but for the most part, it's not their fault. Like Mick Schumacher isn't a bad driver because he's getting like 14th, 15th place, or the stuff about like Lewis, like, oh yeah, see, this is why he's not a good driver, because he's not winning every race. Like, it's not, a lot of it is the car. It's just a fact. A lot of it is the car. And yeah, like, it's, you see with Seb, like, he didn't just all of a sudden lose his talent for driving.
No,
he just has a shit car. But
I mean, yeah, you
very
saw
impressive for Albon.
No, yeah, for sure. And I was gonna say, like, you see, I mean, you could tell. I mean, you go back. I mean, I'm pretty sure Fernando Alonso lost out on 2 championships because of his car issues.
Yeah.
So Sebastian Vettel, he had a chance in him and Charles. Like, that 2019 car was just, oh my God. But yeah, no, the talent doesn't go away. I mean, a driver may lose the fire and the talent, they may lose the fire and the drive, but not the talent. I misspoke. But
good.
God, it's just it's crazy. But yeah, like we said, extreme props to Alex. Mega drive. Mega.
Careful with that second letter.
I know, yeah. But yeah, that's really cool. But I still just, I cannot get over just how weird Aston Martin was this weekend, and just it's just so strange.
It's almost sad. Like, they have on paper, they have everything they need, but they just, like, they've hired good people from all the best companies. They have all the money in the world. They have arguably the nicest looking car on the grid. They have a 4-time world champion that's supposed, like, mentoring,
arguably the nicest looking driver.
Yeah, like, they got wait, Lance? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting once we got enough of a fan base to do a poll, like, who people think the best looking F1 driver is, because it'd be all over the place. I think Charles would be up there.
Oh yeah.
My mom would put in 1 million votes for Lewis, and then I don't know, but yeah, Seb with that hair is looking good.
No, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's go through the let's update the standings. Do you have it pulled up by any chance?
Yes,
I
yes,
can
I
do it, but
do.
let's split it. You do the drivers, I'll do the constructors. Okay. Because
Sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
there's one name, the fifth and sixth. I want you to read really slowly.
Oh God. So, as of we're 3 GPs into this extremely long Formula One season. We're just getting started, but we could just be getting a taste of what's to come so far. If hopefully Red Bull and Mercedes can just get it together, because our first place driver is Charles Leclerc with 71 points, 2 wins, 3 podiums. The man has been on podium every single race in 2022. It's unbelievable. 71 points. It's even more amazing when you compare to how many points second place has, which is George Russell, the Mercedes newcomer. Let's see. George has 37 points, and he got his first podium this past weekend, which is great to see. I'll run through these a little bit quicker, except for 5 and 6. Third place, we have Carlos Sainz, got 0 points this weekend. He for sure would have been second place if he had at least placed, what would that been, 7th, which if he had, you know, the right steering wheel or whatever the problems were, if those had been fixed, then yeah, there's no doubt that he would still be second. Fourth place, Sergio Perez, 30 points. Fifth place, top 5, you've got Sir Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes.
Right, that's Sir.
Mercedes claims to have the 5th fastest car on the grid, but when you look at it all together, I think it's definitely safe to say that Mercedes is looking like a strong, third fastest for sure. Alpine is
true.
Yeah, Alpine's, I feel like they're right behind Mercedes, and McLaren could be like catching them, but for now it's definitely Alpine. But after Lewis,
Haas has had their moments.
Yes,
Alfa Romeo's had their moments, but yeah, overall, like that. But that's classic Mercedes, right? Like, I think they were saying on WTF one podcast that again, great people, great podcast, that George Russell must have had good PR training from Mercedes when he came in. Like, just whenever you're interviewed, just kind of dock our car down 2 points in your assessment of it, or two levels of where we think we really are. Yeah, just say that to the public. It's like, you guys have dominated for the entire turbo hybrid era, and you're still saying like, we're 5th best on the grid. That's one thing that it's a bit annoying about them. It must be annoying for other people. It's like, you're just simply not the 3rd best, or sorry, 5th best on the grid.
Yeah, because even if Carlos and Max had finished, that still would have been some strong point finishes for both of them. Would have been a podium for George, but it still would have ended in some really, really good points for Mercedes. I mean, they're going to be in the top 3. Like, even if Red Bull has no more reliability issues for the rest of the season, Mercedes is going to be a top 3 team. They're just bullshitting, but that's the politics of Formula One. Each team has their own strategies, and that's just what Mercedes does. And
that's right.
If it may seem annoying to some people, but I eat that shit up. I'm not even going to lie. And all you Mercedes fans are going to be thrilled, because in 6th place is Max Verstappen, only 1 win and 1 podium same weekend, because the other 2 DNFs, not by his own issues, but from his car issues.
Who was in 5th place?
Sir Lewis Hamilton would be in 5th place. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Lewis is ahead of Max.
Lewis is ahead of Max, but unfortunately.
But the Mercedes car is so bad this year. Why is Lewis ahead of Max? How did that happen? Adrian.
Christian Horner is what happened. That's all I have to say. Right. It's his fault. It's his fault. It has to be. Or helmet, Marco, whichever.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Right, I'll let you go. I'll let you continue.
God, I mean, it's crazy, because I mean, if they God, okay, I'm not gonna keep elaborating. It's heartbreaking for a Red Bull fan, but it's thrilling for Mercedes fans. In 7th place, Esteban Ocon, 20 points. 8th place, Lando Norris, 9th place, Kevin Magnussen, and 10th place, Valtteri Bottas, which is just wonderful to see Bottas still on the graphic in the top 10. I'm going to run through the bottom half a lot quicker. We've got Daniel Ricciardo got his first point finish this weekend, so he is 11th. You've got Pierre Gasly, who has honestly been struggling this year. He is in 12th place with 6 points. Right behind him in 13th is his teammate Yuki Tsunoda with 4 points. Then you've got Fernando Alonso 14th with 2 points. Zhou Guanyu in 15th with 1 point. Alex Albon with 1 point in 16th place. You love to see it. 17th, Mick Schumacher. 18th, Lance Stroll. 19th, Nico Hülkenberg. 20, Latifi. And in last place, in 21st place, you have Sebastian Vettel. And of course, those from 17 to 20, 0 points. So I believe Nico is just, I don't know how they rank them when they're at 0, but
it's like based on how high they finish between 10 or 11 and 20.
Yes, yeah. I think so, which is kind of sad that Nico is ahead of Latifi. But yes, that is our driver standings as of the end of the Australian GP. Do you want to run us through the constructors?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
First place, Ferrari.
Scuderia.
Kind of want to get another one of those from you from a couple weeks ago, but away from the end. Number 2, Mercedes. Number 3. I hate that I'm that excited about being second place by 40 points. Third place, Red Bull, 55.
Oof.
Fourth place, McLaren, 24. And then it drops off a little bit. Well, 5th, Alpine's only 2 points behind McLaren, but then 6th, Alfa Romeo, 7th, Haas, 8th, Alpha Tauri. So they still have some decent points, 10, and then 9th, Williams, 1 point, 10th, Aston Martin, 0 points. And who would have thunk it when we were all doing our pre-season predictions that Aston, I didn't expect Aston Martin to be at the top of the grid, but to be dead last with 0 points, even though it's only been 3 races, and they haven't had Seb for 2 of them. They're definitely the of the year.
Yeah, so no, that's a good way to put it. I wish there was a way you could type that sound, because that's a perfect way to describe Aston Martin.
Captioning that'll be fun.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it's this has got to be, having Max have 2 DNFs is one thing, but having Aston Martin be the new Williams, bro.
Yeah, the new Haas.
Yeah, Williams was briefly the new Haas, but now Aston Martin is Williams.
It should be another weekly award. Who's this week's, last year's Haas?
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. You just got to think, where is the problem lying? Because you have a team full of extremely talented people. Is it the leadership? Is it the inner workings? Or is the team just unfortunately not cut out to lead a winning Formula One team? I don't know, but they're hitting this certain point that I think Haas was really famous for hitting, is that they're hitting that point where they'd have to get some results, because the longer you go, the more demoralized the team's going to get. Especially, forget the drivers, the engineers, the pit crew. They're going to be we have 0 points. We're behind Williams, bro. How is that going to motivate you? Yeah, exactly.
You saw how hard they were working to get Sebastian Vettel out there, and they were all happy and high five, and just that's, like you said, just having to every day, whether you're making millions or you're making nothing, in the morning, you still got to lift your head up on that pillow at some point and get up out of bed.
Yeah.
And when your first thought is what is this all for? That's just, no one wants to have that. And yes, they're making good money. They're living a great life, but it's that's still, no one wants to have their first thought just be oh, what is this all for? What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Every single person on that team has got to drive for more, but I can't imagine what that feeling has to be like, of working on 2 cars. I know there's 2 different teams for each car, but like Lance's engine going out, we have 2 hours to fix it. You're literally full energy nonstop. We get the car out with fucking 6 minutes to go in Q1. and he crashes it. Like, and then said the race, the DNF, it's just like they've got to just be like completely flabbergasted. It's I mean, from the outside looking in, it's really interesting, but God, it's just got to be the worst. Like I feel for them. Not really the Strolls, but
No, I would just say, speaking of the worst though, this thought just popped in my brain. There's got to be a certain point in which Lawrence Stroll is going to say, okay, this investment isn't paying off. I love my son, but it's just not worth it. Imagine having to live the rest of your life as Lance Stroll with your dad, having known like he put hundreds of millions of dollars into this and I failed. Now I have to look him in the eye every day because his dad's not the type that's just going to be like, I love you, son. You did your best. And like, you were a failure. You wasted me so much money, son. And he's like, but dad. It's just
no, he definitely seems like
that's the only thing I feel bad for him for is like the rest of his life, he's just gonna have to be a failure in his dad's eyes. And for anyone, I don't want to get too sappy, but for anyone, that's just like, especially as a guy, that's the worst thing you could ever be, is a failure in your father's eyes. And
God, no, I mean, he's had moments, and I mean, he's had I would say like a long career, but he's been in Formula One like a good while.
He started out well. He got a podium.
Yes,
kind of lucky, but still.
Yeah, he went from Williams to Racing Point and then Aston Martin. It's just, and Lawrence Stroll has just been pumping cash into whatever team he's belonged to. So, God, like you said, I can definitely see like Lance just being like, so how are you, Dad? And he's like, you've cost me $238 million. Shut the fuck up, please.
Yeah, like, how are you, Dad? Well, not good. I'm actually trying to pay off this debt from you.
Trying to sell that rear wing, Lance. Thanks.
But Latifi.
Yeah. He's like, it was Latifi, Dad. Shut up. Dad. So what do you say?
It's just getting more comical, like more.
It is
more high pitch as the episode goes on.
It's so good though. But hey,
I can do it. Okay.
At least their last name's not Mazepin though. God. Let's be real.
K-Mag has already got more points this year than Mazepin would have got the entire season. Even if 10 people DNF'd in a race, Mazepin would still be the 11th to DNF in that race. But I don't think
everyone knows that.
Yeah, and he doesn't deserve our time. We're not even going to go on that. Let's get to our best and worst.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So I'll do first for this, and you can do first for hard soft. So my best, I actually have two, because we talked about both of them. So splitting my award for best moment of the week. 1A, Seb Scooter Seb. Just a great moment. Like I've already seen t-shirts with it out. Like it's just,
oh God.
Those are the moments like when they do like a 2022 F1 recap video, there's going to be like 5 seconds of Seb on that scooter, just buzzing around. And then
I love it.
I don't usually do this, but I got to give a shout out to the Australia fans. Like 420,000 fans, I think the number was. Last year, Coda, the USA race, set a record for 400,000, I think the number was. So they eclipsed that, and that hasn't really gotten a lot of, like, I think everyone's just like, yeah, that's Australia. It's like, well, everyone made a huge deal when the US did it, but like they were just every session, like every time they did crowd shots, like they were loving it. Obviously they hadn't had a race in a while, but that sort of atmosphere and the way they we're in a similar situation here in Canada, where we haven't, the last 2 years, the Canadian Grand Prix got whatever canceled, postponed, whatever you want to say. So excuse me. So I'm very excited to hopefully have that same atmosphere here in Canada when we have our race, which by then Mercedes will be the fastest team on the grid.
Hopefully.
So that's my best. Should I do my worst? Do you want to go best, worst?
Yeah, I guess I'll throw my best out there. Gosh, yeah, definitely shout out to the Australia fans. I saw this really, really cool TikTok. I think the McLaren TikTok page might have posted it, but it was just these Australian fans in like on a train, like with a giant one of those like head cutouts of Daniel Ricciardo, and they were chanting Daniel Ricciardo.
It was like that. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so cool. Like he's just got to feel so prideful that he was able to get some points this week. Like really, really awesome job. So I'm gonna give it to Daniel. He's my best this week. Charles, he drove like a legend, but he really had no challenge this week. So we really didn't get to see like that masterful chess play of racing, which he still did an amazing job for sure. But yeah, it's got to go to Daniel. Like, amazing job. He fucked
Yeah.
some shit up.
Fuck some shit. Good eye, mate.
Good eye.
All right. So my worst. Now, when I first saw this story, I actually didn't even. I looked at it once and saw. Sorry, let me try that again. When I first saw this story, I looked at it once and thought, that's not real. I'm not even going to give it a time of day because it was so ridiculous. But I kept seeing it get posted. And in my F1 chat with some of my friends, I saw them talking about it. So like, okay, maybe this is real. And now I'm taking it as fact, even though I haven't looked into it. But from what I understand, I can tell by the way you're looking at me that you have no idea what I'm about to say. Apparently, they banned jewelry from racers. And Lewis Hamilton has, like, this is just, tell me if I'm being ridiculous here, but that's just a direct shot at Lewis Hamilton. Like, yeah, maybe a few other guys wear chains and stuff. Like, that's, like, he literally has welded in earrings that he said, like, I'm not taking these out. They're welded in. Like, if you're going to give me penalty, like, they're welded in. Like, why does it matter? Like, what made them do this? It just, as a Hamilton fan, it came across as like, this is just like, why is it a safety issue? And B, like, I don't know any other driver that's really talking about their like fashion and jewelry like the same way Lewis has. So it just sort of is like, seems directed at Lewis. Am I being overly sensitive? Or
I will say the way it was like timed, I don't know, but it definitely seemed like it was sort of voiced towards Lewis. And a lot of the comments that I was reading were saying that, but I was also reading that a lot of people had a problem with like the way it was worded, but apparently the way it was worded is directly out of the rule book. And I did read that has been a rule since like 2006, but it's not like they just added that rule to the rule book. I definitely think it was maybe pointed out because they were like, hey, Lewis has got, all this shit or whatever, all these piercings.
They should have done that last year.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like, why didn't Red Bull do that last year?
You'd think, yeah, that'd be, I mean, they're always looking for ways to exploit
like,
the situation. Yeah, he's like, damn it. But I don't know. I hope it's from like a point of looking out for people's safety, because I can imagine, like if Grosjean had the same amount of piercings that Lewis had, if that had caused like some extra like damage or caused scarring, I have no idea. Like I just hope that that's sort of their outlook, because
but even that's just like
it was weird. It was weirdly timed, and it was just weird to like point a finger and be like, hey, don't forget this rule, guys, by the way.
Like, I didn't know, to be honest, that it was already a rule, but there's just sort of was like, there's probably 19 guys on the grid that don't really give a shit about that. Like, if you're like, maybe I don't know, maybe Charles Leclerc loves his chain or something, but I don't know. It just seems like a weird rule to be like, we're stepping down and enforcing this now. Like, what if a guy has like, I don't know, what if a guy has like a necklace that has like his dad's ashes on it or something? Like, are you gonna like make him take that off? I don't know. It just seems like a weird, it's not, I don't see what and I'm sure there's a rational explanation for this, but I don't see what the like issue could possibly be if someone's wearing a chain or an earring or something. Like, if it, I just don't know. And again, this, like, I'm a white guy, I don't wear a lot of jewelry, I'll admit that, like, but I shouldn't have said white, anyways, but like I just don't wear a lot of jewelry and stuff, so like I don't know what the potential issues are with it, but it just seemed to me like a very random, like sort of like a classic FIA thing to do, where they do have that. I guess my issue with this is all boils down to the FIA and Formula One in general has this sort of like unspoken racism to them, and this sort of like plays into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, gosh, I'm not going to get into the politics of Formula One and like some of the members that they have, but no, yeah, for sure, that's definitely the way they come off sometimes. But if I was just to guess, like, I feel like the only like this is gonna sound bad, but like you said, the necklace, regardless of what it is, I feel like that would be more dangerous. Like if you had like a wristwatch or maybe a necklace, like if you're trying to get out of the car and that got caught, you like something like that. But like I feel like what Lewis has, I mean, like
And like should be his own decision,
yeah, the only person that's going to affect is him. And you could say the same thing is like, well, Charles' necklace could get caught. It's like that's a little different though, just to me. But yeah, it seemed it was just weirdly timed. Like I don't know, very very weird.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to make it like a whole like 5-10 minute thing, but it was just like kind of just
No,
caught me off guard.
Yeah, it's worth discussing, of course, because it's weird.
Yeah, very weird. So without further ado, what's your worst of the week?
I think what hurt the most personally was Max's DNF, but just because of the lost potential, my worst moment from this whole weekend is Fernando's lost lap, because goddamn, I want to see what that track time is.
Yeah, that would have been unbelievable. Like like I said, it's similar to the Max Jetta. Like it could have been one of those. It could have been on his like career. Like if he does put that on pole, like that's a look back at the season. Like how the fuck did he do that kind of moment?
Absolutely,
I'll give him credit. They do have pretty good pace, like surprisingly good pace. The Alpine, like I didn't really expect that. I'm interested to see as the season goes and we get through there's a period of tracks that are kind of more technical, like we're gonna come through like Baku and Monaco and even to an extent like Montreal. But then when you get to like Austria and Silverstone and like Monza and like those races, like that is just like Need for Speed. Like that is just a speed demon for those tracks. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see once they get there. Like that's my guess. My one holding out hope for Mercedes is if there's a time to wait to unleash the beast, which you gotta, at least as a Mercedes fan, hope that, not that they're holding back, like they're obviously giving everything they can, but if there's going to be a big upgrade and they can do it before that part of the nice crack.
Sorry, I didn't warn.
No, that was a nice crack. You put your hand, sorry, for those that are listening, he did a knuckle crack and it was like 10 feet away from the camera. He tried to get it out of the camera.
I leaned back. I will say I leaned back, but I accidentally put it right in front of the mic.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That was good. I hope it caught the mic. Yeah, that was good. But anyways, like, yeah, that's
fuck, sorry.
I was saying. No, that's good. That's good. that's good. That's all I needed. So
no, I agree. It's I think out of like the performance of all the cars, I did not expect Alpine to be like a top 5 car.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have been like, I feel like Aston Martin and Alpine are gonna. I think I might have said that in my first episode. I feel like they're gonna be on similar levels. Like couldn't be farther from the truth. But God, Azerbaijan is gonna be so cool, especially because with the rumors that Ferrari's been holding back on their power, that they're like testing reliability. So like by Azerbaijan, it could be fully juiced. So God, it's going to be
those
amazing.
Races are going to be fascinating because it is very different. Like the Monacos and the Bakus, like you don't, obviously being fast is important, but there's so much more technical aspect to it. Like last year, Red Bull had Mercedes had the faster car, but Red Bull was so much better around tight corners. So they would dominate a track like that. But it's going to be very interesting that, although I will say, like, I guess people have said on the straights, Red Bull might have actually faster cars maybe, but Ferrari just overall just blows them out of the water. So yeah, I don't know, like Imola, I don't have a read on what's going to happen other than it's in Italy, so it's probably going to be Ferrari. But I guess that's let's go do our hot or soft awards.
Yes.
Yes. All right, you go first this time.
Gosh.
Unless you're not ready, then I can go.
Yeah, you go ahead because I'm torn.
Guy doesn't do any prep for this show.
No.
I'm just kidding. I will say this. No, I will say you
write some amazing notes before each episode. I have my own like
I'm
little
the producer
notes.
though. That's my job.
True, and I have my own little notes, but like you do a great job. Like it really helps me, especially right before the show, just refresh. But
I
yeah, go
have to.
ahead.
Otherwise, if I didn't, I'd be, especially while I'm doing the Moscow Mule thing, I'd be in that pace. I'm already all over the place. But
I
yeah,
love it.
so my hard, I'm gonna admit my hard and soft this week isn't anything like outside of the box. I just pretty much went, what are they? Whatever. I just went with whatever the obvious ones were. Hard, Leclerc, his first career Grand Slam. Like that's just unbelievable to do. It's also really like hard strategically. I don't know how they like. So pole, yeah, winning the race, sure. Fastest lap, okay. But the one that gets me is having to lead every lap of the race, because when you pit, like, do they not like? I don't remember if when he pitted he wasn't in first. Like, do they not? How do they count that? Because every time you pit, you're probably not going to be at first when you pit. Like that's just like it's almost, you'd have to be leading by over 20 seconds within the first like whatever 25 30 laps. So it's, I don't know how they calculate that.
I wish I had paid
No.
better attention to see if he had actually dropped a place at any point when he pit. But that's a good question.
Is that, yeah, but regardless, just hearing like first Grand Slam, I'm like, Grand Slam, what is this, like what is a Grand Slam? And then after hearing about that, I was like, oh, that is very impressive. Because yeah, like I can get like, so usually the guy that gets pole, I mean, he's obviously the favorite to win the race and probably fastest lap, but leading every lap, very, very impressive. And then my soft, I mentioned it earlier, my soft award this week goes to Lance Stroll.
Understandable.
Sir Lancelot, let me look right into the camera. Get your shit together, all right? You're making us all look bad. Making us all look bad. Third highest grossing athlete in Canadian, or whatever this is. He says it all the time. Third most popular Canadian athlete. That's not true. We all know it. But okay, we need you to pick your shit up. All right. All right. That was just between me and the camera.
Yeah, from one Canadian to another. Like that was some like insider Canadian talk that the rest of the world's not used to.
Blue Jays are starting. No one cares about you anymore. Leafs are about to go in the playoffs, but I didn't want to get too in depth Canadian. But yeah, get your shit together.
Ooh, yeah. I'll start with my hard. My hard is going to go to the entire Aston Martin team, and that's hard. That's harsh because it's the hard award, but it's harsh. That's harsh because
hard is a good one.
Yeah. Gosh. Oh wait, yeah. Did I say it backwards?
Yes. I was like, wait.
God, yeah,
honestly, though, I would have been okay with that because they did a good job. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Hard is like,
yeah.
You got a hard set of nuts. Soft is like,
yeah, no,
you're a little bitch.
No, I flubbed my words a little bit. So
just to crack my fifth. So excuse my language.
Oh, the fifth mule.
Holy shit,
dude. That's impressive. Yeah, four for Leclerc's win and one for fastest lap. Oh my God. Yes, apologies. I flubbed my words. Soft is gonna unfortunately go to Aston Martin, and I want to exclude the engineers because they've got to be the only ones that are keeping that team going. Like, props to those guys, but to the team principals and to Lance and to the upper management, like, just do better. Seb is really the only one that has an excuse. I mean, they said it during qualifying. I think he had only gotten 20 laps in.
Yeah, that's like 26 laps or something. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Like, that's not okay. But yeah, unfortunately, they're getting the soft, and hard is going to go. It's hard not to pick Charles Leclerc because of the Grand Slam, but that was who I was torn between him, and who ends up getting my hard is no. He's getting it. What I can't even think of the phrase, but in my heart, that's where he gets it. But actuality, Alex Albon, just a great drive from him. Got points for Williams. He's getting my hard award this weekend.
Okay, he's your hard. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, he had a great race. So next race, we have our first sprint race of the year, Imola. which is gonna be
Oh
great.
yeah.
Another fun track on the video game. Any pretty much any track on the video game that we like, we're gonna mention it. Actually, that might be a good time to mention. We started our own little GP mode. Wait,
Yep.
It's not GP mode. I just completely messed that up. Career mode.
Yes.
And we tried to pick a team that we could replace the drivers and it wouldn't change the grid too much. So we picked Alfa Romeo because both the drivers that were on there last year aren't currently on the grid. And our first race of the year, Mr. Adrian over here gets his car on pole on Bahrain, which admittedly not my best track. I think I was like 14th. Not great for me, just not a good. I was when you play in 2-player, there's no flashbacks, so I was scared as shit of spinning out. So I was just going around the corners like, and I have it on manual gears, so I'm like just scared of going too low and spinning out every time. So I was being safe. But anyways, guy puts it on pole. He's leading the first like 20 laps of the race, and then all of a sudden I see this thing pop up. I forget what your name is, but I'm just gonna say on that. But Adrian is DNF from the race. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was battling my way up. I almost got into the points. I was like battling for a 12th, 11th, 12th, and then I had a little incident with an unnamed driver that last name rhymes with Bazapin.
Bazamin.
Yeah. And I had severe front make damage, and I dropped to last place from 12th. But it was a fun race for me. It was probably very frustrating for you because you were leading the race the whole time and you just headed nowhere. What happened?
I was laughing my ass off because I think we're playing what AI are we playing on?
80?
Yeah, we're playing on 80, no flashbacks, which it's not the hardest difficulty, but with no flashbacks, it's a challenge in a Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I somehow managed to get pole in Bahrain, but I think it was like the second or third lap. I do not know what happened.
Oh, I thought it was like way deeper into the race than that. Was that early?
It was like really freaking early. Like I think the latest it was maybe lap 4, but it was so early. What happened was just I don't know if I just like the crash was legitimate because I just took that first, I think it was the first turn. I just hit that first curb wrong. And I don't know why. Sometimes like
the second curb always gets me.
Yes, I think that was it because I skidded to the left, and especially when you're doing single player and you can do flashbacks, sometimes you just try to gun it to see if you can guide it right back on track. And that's what I did. And I just hit the wall and the wheel came off. So it was just like, you're done. And I was like, fuck. I honestly was laughing my ass off. I was just like, of course, that was what I do. So we're only one round in right now, but we're going to do the full career. It's probably going to take us a little while because obviously the races are long and there's a ton of races, but we'll keep updating the standings on that. But it's a lot of fun, and hopefully down the line when we have more of a following, I would love to be able to stream or to upload like clips of us actually doing the racing live. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Or even like eventually one day be able to get like a GP with like every driver is like someone that listens to the Harder Stuff podcast. Like you can do an online race with 20 drivers that are all, let's start a league with just a HOS League. That'd be unreal. But
they would just crash into us at the start.
Yeah, I'd be like, fuck these guys. This guy likes Lewis Hamilton. Do we want to do so I had one discussion topic that came up earlier in the week. Do we want to do that, or we want to save it for next week? Because we've gone already an hour and a half.
It's your topic. It's up to you.
Let's do it quick. Yeah. I won't go into the whole thing, but so I'm a big golf guy. I was gonna say I got this Tiger Woods shirt. Tiger Woods got a couple of vintage shirts, but anyways, he made his return this week. Augusta National, the Masters. I guess our discussion is what's going to be comparable, so I'm not going to throw out, but the biggest golf tournament of the season, the Mecca of golf. In fact, it's only about like 2 hours from where Adrian lives. So I was sending him stupid things about like weather radar shots, like how far is this from you? Like, stupid shit all weekend. But yeah, so anyways, I was sad this weekend. So I texted him saying, come up with an answer for this week. What is the Augusta National of Formula One? And when I say Augusta National, I mean not only just like the most prestigious, the most like the thing that everyone wants to win the most, but also like the hardest, the most exciting, the most like everyone that doesn't even watch that sport will watch that race. If there is one in F1, what is that? And there might be an obvious answer, but I think that obvious answer is wrong. So go ahead.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I thought about this for a long time, and I'm not gonna say what my second answer was because this is just a one answer, but and I know this is not going to be what you think, but just based off the question you gave me, I would say in the public opinion, not this isn't necessarily my opinion, but
Right.
I would say Monaco.
Yeah,
It's got to be Monaco.
see, that's the that was, as I said, that's like the
That's the
instant answer
plane.
that popped into my head, right? That's what I think
Yeah,
is like it's uh
obvious.
the most like there's the most like glitz and glamour around it, you know, like when you think of it's like the showpiece of F1. But the difference with me for Monaco is that Monaco itself, the actual race, it's pretty shit. It's probably arguably the
Yes,
worst race on the calendar
it
because it's just
is.
like such a narrow track. Whereas Augusta is like the most exciting. There's carnage everywhere. So I have to be honest. There's not an exact comparison. There's not like one answer that's just going to be like, oh, that's it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you could make the case for like Silverstone because it's the most history, but the track itself doesn't really live up. It's not like a gorgeous track or anything, you know.
That was my second
Um,
pick.
my pick is Spa because it's like it's treacherous. It can at any moment anything can happen. It's beautiful, like it's just a sick track. It doesn't have the like when you look at the F1 calendar, you don't point out like if I can win Spa this year, that's a good year for me. You know, it doesn't have that like there's no real straight up comparison, but I guess for me that's the best. But I saw that question posed on social media this week, and I thought it was an interesting kind of thought piece because, like I said, my guy Tiger was back, and it was just great to watch.
Yes.
Shout out Scotty Scheffler, unbelievable performance in your backyard,
Did
Augusta,
he win?
Georgia. He won. He's a
Wow.
Texan boy, and he won by a lot. Tiger started out well. The thing with Tiger, like he was in a life-threatening car crash 14 months ago. He
Mhm.
was potentially never going to walk again. He might have had his leg amputated. So it is moving the goalpost a bit. But for him even to to make the cut, play 4 rounds, just is an unbelievable thing to see. And
Didn't
just
he shoot 6 over par?
the last few rounds, he was 6 over par, both 78, 78. But the first 2 rounds, he was kind of like right in there. So it was exciting. But the guy that won, like, no one was going to catch him. He put on a dominant performance, and it was cool. Like he's been on an absolute tear the last 6 months or so, and he was the guy that won like 90 of like 150 tournaments, and he was in junior golf. So he's like he won at
Jeez.
like a 66. He is like almost another Tiger Woods. Like he won at like a 66% rate in junior golf. So in golf, that's insane. No one wins more than like 3-4% would be great, you know.
Yeah. How old
So
is
yeah,
he?
uh, he's like 20. I want to say like 25, 26, but he like composes himself
Jeez.
like he's like 40. Like he's just very, very like calm down to earth, chill guy. But yeah, so that was cool. That's like that's the big that's the big golf tournament of the year. But I'm
Dude,
a big
yeah,
golf guy, so
that's amazing. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
must hear a lot
That's
about that though. That's in your backyard.
yes, for sure. I'd love to get into golf. I just similar to Formula 1, I just don't really have anybody in my life that's like super into it besides you. So,
Got me, yeah.
yeah, definitely, once we get more into the groove of things, maybe midway through the season, we can take some time to really get into the golf. I don't even know. Is there like a golf season or are there different
Yeah.
tournaments? Okay.
Yeah. So there's it's 4 majors. So like there's like 35 tournaments or so, but there's 4 majors. So the next one's in like a month. So
Sure.
maybe we can ramp up again for that. But
Yeah. Was
yeah.
I saw this like, and it's not, there's this hole in one clip and it's not the one where he like hits it across the water. There was another one. Was that from this year?
Which one
Was it,
exactly? Like what was the explain it to me?
gosh, it was like there was like I don't know if these guys are like famous or anything, but they were like joking with each other, and then the one friend like hit it and he got a hole in one. I don't know if that's
Ah. I don't
from
know.
this year.
That doesn't exactly ring a bell, but yeah,
It's
there's like
probably
there was a couple hole in
yeah.
ones and stuff. Yeah, but I don't know that exact one. But
That's probably I probably saw like a highlight from years past or
who
something.
knows?
Like I have no clue. But yeah, that's awesome. I feel like a fraud. I'm not even gonna lie because I sat and thought about your question for a long time, and Spa didn't even occur to me. Like
Oh
my
yeah.
second option was Silverstone, but once again, I completely agree. Spa is like top 3 tracks for me, and you're right. It's just like it's not underrated by any means, but it's more like low key. Like I can definitely see that being like the unofficial Formula One race. Like Spa is just
It has that like danger aspect to it, you know?
it
Like
does,
Eau
and I
Rouge
even
isn't what it used to
yeah
be, but it's still like anything
no
could happen. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, Lando had that horrible
Yeah.
crash there last year, but I even remember when I first started getting into Formula One, I recognized Eau Rouge. You know, like
Mhm.
it's so. Is that how you pronounce it?
Eau Rouge,
Eau Rouge. Yeah.
EAUROUGE, Eau Rouge, Eau Rouge.
However you pronounce that infamous turn or what the incline, whatever you call it.
Yeah,
It's
like
I
after the first
recognized it.
turn. Yeah.
Yeah, I recognized it. It's so infamous. So yeah, I can definitely sign off on that being like the Augusta of Formula One.
I'm glad we could come to an agreement.
For sure.
All right, man. Like, is there anything else you want to bring up, or should we plug our socials?
Gosh, yeah, I think we covered everything. This was a fun week. Yeah, it's been awesome doing this podcast, and I know they say that I think there's like this might be a real statistic. I think you're the one that sent this to me is that something like 95% of podcasts stop before episode 20.
Yeah.
So, and this is only episode 7, but we're already just, and I know we say this every week, but it's going super, super well. I'm really, really happy with the way the show's going, and we're just finding ways to improve every single week. We have lots of plans, and we're really getting into the groove of like doing our clips and the verts, and it's just going really, really well. So I'm just very, very excited. I know there's probably a couple of people that are tuning in that are just thinking like, oh, this podcast could end or whatever at a moment's notice. But no, we're in this for the long haul. This is going to be a great season.
You're not getting rid of us that easy.
No, not by any means. But
even if Lewis Hamilton doesn't win, I'm still here.
Even if he retires, God forbid, knock on wood, we're still here.
Sorry, no, I'm just kidding.
You're like, you know what?
Yeah, actually, this is a good time to talk about that. No, I'll still be here. I'll switch to Lando or someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, and of course, if you have anything you want to cover in just a second, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Hard or Soft F1 Podcasts, you can stream or listen anywhere you'd like. Well, not anywhere you'd like, those three platforms, but follow us on our socials. We've got Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Hard or Soft F1. Thank you guys so much for watching. RJ, do you want to add anything on before you sign us off?
I don't have too much. I will say we have potentially, can I say the name? Or do you want to
let's tease
just in case it doesn't. Yeah. Okay. So we have a potentially big F1 YouTuber coming on next week.
Yes.
Which is going to be awesome. We're very excited for that. And we've been in contact with quite a few people. Yeah, we're trying to just do everything we possibly can. Anyone that has any ideas or anything that they want to reach out to us, we're more than happy to chat. And then just on the Toronto side of things, the Raptors are about to start playoffs, first round, 76ers. The Leafs are about to start the playoffs. We got about 10 games left regular season. Austin Matthews just broke the Toronto Maple Leafs record for regular season goals. So That's unbelievable. Yeah, story franchise. We have a tendency to not win the first round. I don't know if you're aware of this in Atlanta, but it's been since, I want to say 2003, maybe 2002, since the Leafs made past the first round. And we're like the Dallas Cowboys, or whatever you want to call it, of hockey. Like we're the center of hockey. So it's very, very disappointing. And we haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. So it's been a long ride, but you know what? We have the best player in hockey, maybe second best, but we have a top 3 player in hockey, and this is our year. So at some point, you're going to be seeing me wearing Maple Leafs stuff on this podcast, to look out for that. And then the Blue Jays just started as well, and we have some great players. So it's a good time to be a Toronto sports fan. I just had to throw that in there, and I got my Tiger Woods shirt on. This is my goat right here, Tiger.
Yes, sir.
So that's all I got for you, buddy.
Dude, I like it because, hey, we may be a F1 podcast, but we support the Leafs, we support the Raptors, and the Blue Jays.
Oh, so I did it.
He did it. The 5 Moscow Mules. Oh, he's done it. Gosh, yeah. Stay tuned because every single week, as long as one of our top 3 drivers wins, and
come on, Carlos. Come on, Lewis.
Yes, you need Carlos. You need Lewis. I think my pick is my third pick Gasly.
Yeah.
What the fuck was I thinking?
I mean, that might have been the worst pick of the draft, but
it was.
But you're winning, so like, yeah.
I got.
Who am I to chirp you?
Oh man, Max is screwing me fantasy wise, bro. It's bad, but yes,
it's really painful to see him be so close and just struggling this hard, you know.
Painful for me, but probably pleasurable for you.
Pleasurable in the sense that it's a bit of like bittersweet though, because if Lewis was say Lewis was in Charles's position, it would be so much sweeter. Yeah. But the fact that like Max's car is failing him and he's still, I can't like brag or anything, you know. It's like I can't talk shit.
No, yeah, but you can. Yeah, he's definitely not your favorite driver, so it's understandable.
But it is also fun, I think, for any sport. And some people disagree with this, but I think for any sport, it's fun to have either a team or a player to root against. It's almost as fun to root against someone as it is to root for. Like,
yes,
knowing that Lewis isn't going to win, the fact that I can just root for Charles and against Max, it's almost as exciting and as fun as it is rooting for Lewis. So I think that goes with any sport. Like in hockey, I have my teams to root against in any sport. So yeah, I am kind of reveling in this moment that Max had that failure, but it is bittersweet in the sense that Lewis isn't winning and that he might, that Max is probably going to bounce back. But
right,
that's all I got.
No, yeah, I completely agree. It does add a lot more tension and a lot more fun to a sport when you have somebody to root against.
Yeah.
But this year I feel like I'm rooting against my parents, bro. It's like you got to pick between your mom and your dad, Charles or Max. And I'm like, I want to live with mom, but I want to spend time with dad. You know, it's like, but
it's an analogy.
Like you, yes. Unfortunately, you've suffered
kind of hits close to home, but
punishment. Yeah, you've gotten every punishment so far, but stay tuned because hopefully next week Carlos brings
Imola.
it back. Yeah, you're gonna need to come up with a punishment for me, for either Lewis or Carlos or your.
We know Carlos is Nesquik. You're gonna have to drink 6 glasses of tall chocolate milk.
I have low sugar Nesquik in my kitchen. I'm down. That shit is good.
But 6 glasses.
I've actually at my work we did a milk chug challenge. So I've chugged a half a gallon of chocolate milk. So I'm ready.
Better than the milk crate challenge.
Oh god.
Remember that? Oh my god.
Yeah, I'd rather destroy my stomach than break my neck.
Yeah. The most surprising thing about that was like, who just has like 20 milk crates sitting around? Where are you getting these things?
They just robbed the dairy section at their grocery store. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Let's let him go. That was an awesome episode. That was fun.
Absolutely. Yes, like I said, follow us on all the socials. Stay tuned for next week's punishment and for the draft and for all of our fun, amazing segments. Thank you all so much for listening. Rate us 5 stars. Do whatever you can to share this show. Rate us, like, subscribe, follow. Literally anything will help. It's an early show. We need as much help as we can get. But yes, thank you so much. Shout out to Tiger Woods. We'll see you guys next week.